Welcome in, Jays fans. A very exciting ending to a very thrilling game as Creighton wins 89-85 tonight at home over Butler. As you can see, I'm not at the Chi. We had some technical difficulties in the press box tonight, so I had to run home to make sure we got this this post game interview in. This post game show, and I do apologize for not getting the halftime show up. We tried and we were having some technical difficulties, so we apologize about that. But thanks to everybody that was joining the Discord and having conversation during the game with us on Twitter. Creighton gets to a 3-0 start in the Big East for the first time since 2013, 2014. We'd love to get your thoughts on it. Casey Matthews not here tonight. He's obviously not on the broadcast. He's a little under the weather this evening. Creighton assistant coach Mike Nesbitt will join us here shortly from the CHI Health Center and give us his thoughts on the win. And there's a ton to talk about and a lot to unpack with this. I'd like to unpack it with you. So give me your thoughts in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Creighton's 3-0 start in the Big East. Obviously, not exactly the start of the season we expected to see from the Jays, but after all that turmoil at the beginning of the season, all the struggles there, now 9-5 on the season, and more importantly, 3-0 in the Big East. Career nights for Jason Green and Austin Swartz tonight. Jay Green finishes the night with 23 points to lead the Jays. He went 8 of 11 from the field, but maybe more importantly, he went 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Creighton didn't shoot a ton of free throws in this game. The Jays tonight, just one free throw with about 5 minutes left to go in the game. Now they eventually got to the free throw line to shoot 15 by the end of this, but a lot of that was due to the way the game was getting away from the Bulldogs at the end. And maybe even the biggest part of the night was Michael Ajayi, the senior starter, who's one of the nation's leading scorers, ends up fouling out of the game. The first Bulldog to foul out throughout the entire season. He gets 5 fouls with about 2 minutes to go left in this game. They did a really good job of keeping Finley Bizjack in check, and Creighton fans know how big of an issue he's been at Hinkle and sometimes inside the CHI Health Center tonight. He just goes 3 of 12 from the field and 1 of 7 from beyond the three, and he didn't hit that 1 3-pointer until there was 2 minutes left in the game either. Now, there was a little bit of a scare at the end of this. Creighton, the lead change only happened once. Creighton hadn't trailed in this game at any point in lead change, and wasn't even tied. Excuse me, they haven't trailed until there's with less than. Let me rephrase that. There was 38 seconds ticked off the clock at the beginning of the game. That's the only time they trailed. Jays able to battle back in this, and then it got there was about 11. The Jays led by 11 points 4 different times. That was the biggest lead of the night, and it looked like they're going to be able to ice it and put away. They led by 11 with 1:58 to go. And then Evan Haywood, who hadn't done anything all night, he was 1 of 9 from the field with under 2 minutes to go in the game, comes in, and now it goes 4 of 12 from the field, hitting 3 consecutive 3-pointers to get Butler back into this game. The third one he hit, he had 3 J's in his face, and he was falling out of bounds, and somehow got the 3-pointer to go, which made it a 2-point contest with just under 8 seconds to go. Got really interesting, but Nick Graves went to the free throw line and was able to ice the game for Creighton. It was a little bit of a chippy game all game long. I mean, there wasn't a ton of fouls called specifically on Creighton's side of the game, but at the end of the game, there was a ton of chippiness. Ty Davis and Nick Graves, both of the point guards, getting into it with the bigs for Butler. So listen, this game has always just typically been pretty competitive. There have been a couple blowouts in the series, but typically over time since Creighton's joined the Big East, this has been a very competitive matchup. And it didn't look like it was going to be that way. I mean, the game started off with a 12-2 run by the Jays, and they led by 11, like I said, 4 different times throughout the game. They just weren't ever able to put it away, and a lot of the reason was because of of Butler's ability to rebound. I mean, we're going to talk to Mike Nesbitt about this when he joins, but 21 offensive rebounds for the Bulldogs tonight. Creighton just struggled. This is going to be an issue throughout the season, something Creighton's got to find a way to find a level of physicality to match what they're going to see throughout the Big East, because the physicality in the paint is where this team is sorely lacking right now. And obviously, we're talking about a win here, but we're projecting throughout the rest of this Big East season, if they want to stay in contention for a Big East regular season championship and compete with the UConns and the St. John's of the world. Those are pretty big asks at this point in the season, but you play to win championships. And you've seen this team turn a corner, and obviously the last 4 games have been much more improved from what we saw in the first 10. That's typically the case with Greg McDermott teams, and I don't think anybody expected this big of a jump. But obviously, we've seen a massive jump over the last 4 games from the first 10 games that we saw this season. You're going to win a lot of games if you have 4 guys scoring in double digits tonight, like Creighton did. Austin Swartz with 22, Jason Green with 23, a career high, Isaac Trout with 16, and Nick Graves with 11. Now Nick's 11 came very late in this game. He didn't have a single basket in the first half, but the backup point guard was able to notch in a couple shots, get to the free throw line late, and really help Creighton ice this game. He hit the last 2 free throws to eventually give Creighton the 4-point victory. But the physicality in the paint is something that Creighton sorely needs to figure out. And obviously Owen Freeman was thought to be the answer to that, and he only played 5 minutes tonight and just kind of seemed to really be struggling after he had 2 really good games back to back. But just Creighton tonight struggling to stop Butler in the paint, whether it be with rebounds. They were able to shut, even with 21 offensive rebounds. Butler just had 18 points in the paint. They had 12 points off of turnovers as well. And Creighton did a really good job early, not turning the basketball over, but Butler really did a good job in those between eights, but from the 12 to 4 minute mark in both halves of speeding Creighton up. And Ty Davis got caught in transition a couple times. Nick Graves got caught in transition a couple times. At the end of the first half, Creighton had 5 turnovers in less than 3 minutes. So this is an impressive win for a couple reasons. How good Butler was in the paint and really kind of being able to take long shots and be able to get long rebounds, but also being able to speed up the Jays in those crunch time minutes. Now, I think there's a big hats off moment tonight to Isaac Trout and to Jason Green, because when Creighton needed stops and makes, those 2 guys were really big tonight. Maybe Jason Green, maybe more than Isaac Trout, but Isaac Trout had a couple of really big shots that kind of kept the stiff arm out there and kept Butler at bay. But again, Jason Green tonight, a career high 23 points to lead the Jays, 8 of 11 from the field. He hit a big time 3. He was also 6 of 6 from the free throw line. So even when Creighton was able to get to the free throw line, they were really, really good at the charity stripe tonight. Not a ton of whistles, as I mentioned, just 1 free throw attempt with in the first 25 minutes of the game. But the Jays finished 14 of 15 from the free throw line, just 10 offensive rebounds to Butler's 21. But when you're making more shots, that's going to help. We've talked about how this team is sharing the basketball more as well. 19 assists on 31 made baskets. Not exactly a great number, but it is still a pretty high clip. So Creighton attempted 63 shots tonight as well. Shot selection at times was a little bit confusing. Kind of felt like, and obviously with the way Jays were trying to wind down the clock at the end of the game, that's going to inflate that number a little bit too. But the Jays shoot 40% from 3 tonight, 13 of 32, but just 5 of 14 in the second half. Now, again, that was shot selection, playing with the lead, trying to extend that stiff arm and just keep the Bulldogs at bay. But hats off to Thad Matta and that Bulldog team, because tonight they were definitely able to, take the onslaught that Creighton had. Creighton had, I believe it was 4 different runs of either a 12-0 or a 12-2 run. So the Jays were able to get out and transition. That I think that's the one thing about this team that has seemed to be better, is they seem to be playing better in transition. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago, the turnovers were definitely there, and that's something you've got to be able to negate, or at least stave off, and be able to work within the system and trust the system. If you are turning the ball over at a high clip, slow down, play within the pace, understand where guys are going to be. We talk to the assistant coaches all the time about the levels of difficulty to this offensive system and the angles you've got to run at and the angles you've got to cut at and where you need to be to expect it. Now, we saw specifically against Marquette and obviously Utah Tech, the lob threat and getting to the rim. We haven't necessarily seen that. We didn't see it tonight really at all. And it's going to be interesting to see if Owen Freeman isn't able to go, or is limited due to the injuries that he's dealt with, or for whatever reason he's only seeing 5 minutes tonight, if they can get that other threat. Now, Karam Konan didn't play at all tonight, and he was really that other option. Talked to Derek Kellogg following the Marquette game and the Kansas State game, and he talked about, we're going to cut that roster down. I think that's what you saw for the first time tonight. Just 9 Jays seeing playing time tonight, the lowest number of guys to see playing time. But the other interesting thing before the game tonight, maybe I buried the lead a little bit. Hudson Greer, not in a walking boot, was dressed to play tonight. He had his warm-ups on and was actively in shoot around. Now, he doesn't see a minute of playing time tonight. Now, you got to wonder. There was the discussion about the red shirt at the beginning of the season. Obviously, with the amount that Hudson played up until this point, still definitely a possibility. He could still definitely redshirt, but he looked pretty healthy. He dunked the basketball in warm-ups and was shooting around. So who doesn't fit into that rotation if Hudson Greer is the 9th or 10th or 11th guy in this equation? Because looking at the box score tonight, it kind of feels like it'd be Fedor Zugic. Fedor only played 6 minutes tonight, only scoring 2 points and only attempting 1 shot attempt. But that's an interesting dynamic because all season long, when you've kind of needed some energy off the bench, Fedor's been kind of the guy that Mac has gone to in those situations. But it's it's going to be really interesting because I think where you thought this lineup was going to be at the beginning of the season, I mean, obviously with the NIL money that was spent and the attraction around Owen Freeman, he was expected to be the starting 5. Kind of feels like it's going to be the Jason Green, Isaac Trout, Blake Harper-esque 5-4 man rotation, because tonight when Creighton needed to go with a larger lineup, you had Jason Green playing the 5 and you had Blake Harper playing the 4. Now I think that's really interesting and really intriguing. We know Blake, if he can get in rhythm, can be an offensive threat. That's kind of staved off the last couple of games. Tonight he just had 4 points, 2 of 5 shooting, and only played 8 minutes. But Jason Green had 37 minutes, Austin Swartz 32 minutes, and Josh Dix 37 minutes, and then Isaac Trout with 35, and Nick Grave played 29 minutes with Ty Davis technically getting the start, but just 11 minutes on the floor. So I really think this coaching staff, and again, assistant coach Mike Nesbitt is going to join us here very shortly. I think this coaching staff has found something with both Blake Harper and Nick Graves coming off of the bench, because it kind of feels like those guys are more comfortable in those roles now. And that's a little surprising for Nick, because obviously he was a starter at Charlotte, but he clearly has played more minutes than Ty Davis tonight and in most games that he's come off the bench. But it really feels like Ty being out there calms the offense down. He gets people in the right place, and it allows Nick to come in sometimes with the lead. Specifically tonight, Nick came in when I believe it was 14-4. If you're playing with the leads, and I know nobody wants to hear this, it's the NIL era. These guys, Nick Graves is a senior, but again, this is just his 13th game in a Blue Jay uniform. It's a lot easier to come in while you're learning with a lead and not have to worry about willing this team back in. Now, Nick Graves is able to come in at the end of the game and close games out. Those are two very different things. But it feels like this coaching staff specifically has been able to find a way to take the guys that are still learning and maybe drinking through the fire hose a little bit, the way this system works offensively and defensively, mainly talking about Nick Graves and Blake Harper, and bring them in complementary roles to what's already there, as opposed to, hey, go out there and learn on the fly. You also have to be physical while doing it. And I think that's a lot of the reason we're seeing a lack of physicality from the Jays this year. Is it's really hard and difficult to be physical and combative when you're thinking. You're going to get in your own way. You're going to trip over your own feet. And that's really what we saw Creighton do through 10 games to start this season. They've taken that pressure off of the Nick Graves of the world and allowed them to, the guys that are out there learning, and even Austin Swartz, even though Austin Swartz has really kind of been like a duck to water to that starting role. Again, he had 22 tonight and has played fantastic since kind of being thrusted into that starting 5. But for guys like Nick Graves, guys like Blake Harper, even to Josh Dix has started, but had before tonight had seen some reduced minutes, to allow them to learn while sitting on the bench. And I think that has been the biggest leap forward. And we kind of talked about it with Trey Ziegler after the Utah Tech game. He had just talked about the benefit in the way they were coaching from the sideline after the first couple of games, because let's call it, I mean, the coaching staff has talked about it. Owen Freeman not being fully available in the offseason has really stammered some of the growing pains, but also the ability to learn while you're out there, and then changing things up with the addition of Karam Konan late, and the addition of Hudson Greer, maybe not redshirting. And again, we'll see what ends up happening with that, because it did look like he was readily available tonight. It'll be really interesting to get Coach Nesbitt's thoughts on that. And when we come back, hopefully he will join us. We'll cover more of Creighton's 89-85 victory over Butler tonight. We'd love your thoughts. Go ahead and jump in the YouTube chat. Everybody that's joining us and giving us the thumbs up right now, we'd love to get your thoughts on exactly what you saw from Creighton tonight, what your expectations are for this Jays team going forward. This is the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. We'll get to the Sinovation coaches interview of the night. We come back right here on the Roll Jays podcast.
Why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
At Pyramid Contractors, we do it all. From repairing or replacing your roof to updating siding, windows, or gutters. When you have a home improvement project, call Pyramid Contractors.
PyramidRoof.com, never settle for less.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast. Creighton assistant coach Mike Nesbitt now joins us here on the podcast. Coach, obviously a massive win tonight, 3-0 in the Big East for the first time since the 13-14 season. Congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
When we talk about Jason Green's performance tonight, he has a career high 23 points. He goes 8 of 11 from the field. What did you guys see out of Jay Green tonight that you guys have been basically trying to pull out of him since he got to Creighton?
Yeah, you know, he was really good tonight, and we needed him to be really good. Ajayi, or however you say his name, number 5, is an absolute animal, and you know, we knew he was going to have his hands full with him, and you know, I thought he did a nice job for the most part with him, and then, you know, gave us a lot on the offensive end, which we needed all of it.
Standing down for shoot around tonight, obviously we saw that Hudson was in shoot around gear and moving a lot better, maybe a little better than Jackson McAndrew on a scooter back there. But what's the expectation for Hudson for the rest of the season?
Yeah, you know, since we got back, we came back on after our break. We practiced the 26th, and he was probably about 40-50% that practice. Each day leading up to this game, he's increased his workload. You know, I think he did a full workout after shoot around today. I would imagine next game he'll probably be ready to roll.
Obviously the nod to the Bulldogs tonight, very efficient in the paint. They were able to get 21 offensive rebounds tonight. A little bit of a lack of physicality in the paint from Creighton tonight. Was that by design, or is that something that you guys want to see maybe a little more of in the next couple practices and when you get ready to go on the road?
No, you know, that's something we'll definitely have to improve on, you know, before this 2-game road swing. But that's kind of who Butler is as a team right now. They are an elite offensive rebounding team. I think top 12, top 15 in the country. And number 5, he's an absolute animal. You know, I think you know, they're kind of a inside out team, but they spread you out with enough shooting where if you do just pack it inside, they can really hurt you from the outside. And I thought for the most part, you know, we did a great job on Haywood. He finishes 3 for 9, and all 3 of those makes were tough in the last minute when they were coming from behind. But
I don't know how that last one went in.
You know, we did a really good job on number 11, Bizjack, who was you know, one of the leading scorers in the Big East coming into this game. You know, he goes 3 for 12 from the floor, 1 for 7. You know, another opponent that Josh Dix kind of clamped down.
Yeah, that's where I was just about to go. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of reasons we can point at why we've seen this big jump defensively from this Creighton team. But I think, to your point, I think it starts with Josh Dix, and we've kind of seen he's been a really good defender all season, but specifically over these last 4 to 5 games, he's seemed to kind of take a big step forward. Why has he been able to kind of figure out what you guys are asking for him defensively?
You know, I think he's pretty tough-minded kid. You know, and he's just bought into kind of being that guy. You know, I think he and everyone else would love him to, you know, to hit a couple more shots, but it's like, man, like the amount of guys and different kind of guys he's had to guard, and he's done a great job on, you know, over the last month is really kind of crazy. You know, you're talking about guys that have the ball in their hand. Tonight he was guarding a guy that's, you know, coming off every type of screening action. He's having to chase all over the floor. You know, and I think that's impacted his offensive game. But man, like what he's done on the defensive end and really bought into, you know, it's been really cool to see.
You mentioned you guys are obviously coming back from the holiday layoff, and then you're getting ready to go on a 2-game road trip. What is difficult at this time about coming back and then now having to go back on the road and kind of get back into the swing of things after a little bit of layoff?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think it's really hard to win on the road in college basketball.
That's a great
You
point.
know, so um, it's been great to kind of get back into the rhythm, and we'll leave on we'll practice a couple of days, then we'll leave on Saturday, and then we're actually going to stay out on the road,
Mm.
for that whole week. So um, it's always different. You're not in your routine, you're not sleeping in your own bed. But that's not an excuse, and we'll have to get our work done and figure out a couple ways to win a couple of very tough games.
Great assistant coach Mike Nesbitt joins us here on the Sinovation Coaching Corner segment of Sinovation. Make your indoor outdoor signage help generate revenue for your brand. Check out Omaha Signs and Wraps.com. Coach, obviously coming off the holiday break, do you have any fun Christmas stories? Were you guys able to actually enjoy the time off?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It felt like for me, I was able to actually stay, here in Omaha for a couple of
Sure.
days, and I just had a kid 1 month ago today, so we had some family in town, and just able to enjoy the time with them, and hang out and get ready for this game. Honestly,
Have you flipped to Seton Hall yet, or are you gonna let this one sink in?
um, Coach Murfell's been working ahead on Seton Hall for this whole week, so he's got a pretty good grasp on them. As a staff, we'll probably meet tomorrow and get ramped up on game plan and all that. But I saw that they had a big comeback win on the road at Marquette today, and they've really played well to start out the season. So that's going to be a tough place to play, and they really guard the ball well, and they really protect the rim. So we're going to have to improve. 12 turnovers tonight. We'll have to be a little bit better, to get a win on the road.
Well, coach, for at least the next 12 and a half hours, Creighton is the top team in the Big East right now after getting off to a 3-0 start in conference play. Congratulations. We'll let you get out of here, get you ready for that trip to Seton Hall, and we'll catch up with you later in the season.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Great assistant coach Mike Nesbitt joins us here on the Creighton Coaches segment, brought to you by Sinovation Omaha. Creighton pulls off a win tonight, 89-85 over Butler inside the CHI Health Center. We'll take a real quick break, wrap it up, get you ready for Seton Hall when we come back right here on the Roll Jays podcast.
Why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
At Pyramid Contractors, we do it all. From repairing or replacing your roof to updating siding, windows, or gutters. When you have a home improvement project, call Pyramid Contractors.
PyramidRoof.com, never settle for less.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill, Pyramid Contractors, and Sinovation. Jimmie Allen in tonight. Casey Matthews, a little bit under the weather. Hopefully he's back by that all-important Seton Hall game. And Coach Nesbitt just kind of touched on it a minute ago. Obviously, Seton Hall off to a much better start than I think anybody anticipated, especially after the way Shaheen Holloway's group finished last season. But just checking out the Big East standings, the Jays, the UConn Huskies, Villanova Wildcats, St. John Red Storm, all still undefeated in conference play. As I mentioned, the Creighton with a half-game lead over UConn, and obviously one of the best teams in the country in Dan Hurley's squad. And Creighton's got a lot of business to take care of. We know how this team has performed through the first 10 games, and a lot of that away from the confines of the CHI Health Center. They get ready to head out to Seton Hall on the 4th before they head out to Villanova on the 7th and finish up that road tour in Philly before coming home, take on the St. John Red Storm and Rick Pitino. Maybe in a white suit will be in Omaha. So that's what the next 3 games for Creighton look like all over the next 11 days. So a lot of basketball going on, not only for Creighton, but around the Big East Conference. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to Big East Energy Network yet, please do so. Head over to YouTube, or if you're watching us right now and not a subscriber, over 20,000 strong. We'd love to have you be another part of the community here on Big East Energy. And train's not moving too fast, not too late to go ahead and jump on. We'll see you on the 4th. The Seton Hall game is an 11 a.m. tip on Peacock. We'll be here right after the game with another Creighton assistant coach. I believe it's Alan Huss. You're not going to want to miss that one. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear from you then. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.